Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. Well, thank you, Wendy, for the introduction, and thank you all for being here. Today I'm going to talk about healthy relationships in the classroom. So welcome to class. Every school and every classroom has a prevailing social climate. Sometimes it's stormy, and sometimes it's sunny. When I was a grade 3 student, I remember loving my classroom. On Friday afternoons, we would have art and listen to classical music. And I would look at the clock and actually dread when 3:30 would come, because I just wanted to stay there all afternoon, all weekend even. So I'm going to inspire you, hopefully, to create those kinds of wonderful classroom experiences for the students that you teach. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of healthy relationships, positive use of power, and 7 strategies that you can use to promote healthy relationships in your own classrooms. When we talk about development, we think about the organism, whether it's a little seedling that's going to grow into a plant or a little person that's going to grow and develop. Every seedling, every organism is born with its unique genetic endowment. Its nurture plays an important role. We no longer debate whether nature or nurture is more important. We know that for that seedling to grow, it needs sun, water, and soil. Analogously, relationships are the sun, water, and soil for child development. Relationships are incredibly interconnected. In a family, the way parents get along with each other and how they interact, how they speak to each other, how they resolve conflicts will influence how parents get along with their children and the parent-child relationship. That, in turn, will influence how siblings get along with each other. In the same way, in a school, how you get along with your colleagues, the amount of support you feel at the administrative level, and your collegial relationships with your peers will influence how you feel and the kind of climate you can produce and the relationships that you'll have with your students. This, in turn, will absolutely influence how your students get together. It's also important to think about power in relationships. In parent-child or teacher-child relationships, the power is not equal. So it's very important for power for you as teachers to recognize your power and to use it to promote the well-being of your students. When we talk about healthy relationships, we think that there's 7 major characteristics that define what is healthy in a relationship. The first is respect, that recognition that every human being at every age possesses fundamental human rights to dignity and safety. So respect is at the core. Of course, for a relationship to be healthy, it's got to be caring, with affection expressed and warmth. The person, both people in the relationship have to feel safe. And when there's caring and safety, trust develops over time. It's very important in a healthy relationship for there to be autonomy and boundaries. That means in, let's say, a friendship between students in kindergarten, they need to learn that they could be friends with someone, but their friend is allowed to play with other people too. So negotiating triads and jealousy becomes an important part. As children get older, they need to learn that it's okay to say no. They don't want to do something. They don't always have to go along with their friend if they don't want to. It's very important as they reach adolescence that students can say, I'm friends with you even though you listen to different music and you dress differently, but we could still respect each other and be friends. Communication that's open and honest is vital for any healthy relationship, and being able to express your feelings in an honest way is crucial. And of course, fun. Fun is an element that glues friendships and healthy relationships together. And as teachers, you want to create fun experiences for your students. Children who have a significant emotional bond with an adult, in addition to or instead of a parent, tend to face challenge in a more productive manner. So teacher relationships are absolutely crucial for kids, and I'm sure all of you can remember some wonderful relationships you had with teachers. So I see, in thinking about your classroom culture, that you're kind of like a gardener, and your classroom is like a garden. It's filled with diverse students at different levels with different needs, but together they form an ecosystem. As a teacher, you're like the sun. You provide energy, inspiration, and leadership. You also water the garden, which enables growth, structure for the plants or your growing students, and their ability to absorb the nutrients that come in the soil, which is the learning and social lessons that you want to share. It's also important as a gardener that you protect your students from toxic experiences in the classroom. So how do you use power in a positive way? We think of power as kind of like a seesaw. On one end, there's abdication, using too little power, not observing, not watching, not monitoring, not being aware of what's going on in your classroom and the dynamics within it. On the other end is abuse, being power assertive and a strict disciplinarian, someone who scares your students. On either end, those are the kinds of conditions that promote bullying among your students. In the middle is that sweet spot, empowerment, that you want to find. So when we talk about how to use your power in a positive way, we're going to talk about 7 strategies. The first is that you're a role model. You need to observe carefully what's going on in your classroom. You need to reflect upon what you observe and what you feel in reaction. You have to respond in the moment. We hope that you can scaffold and coach your students, use social architecture, which I'm going to explain, and be a champion for each and every student. Lots of clicking here. So when we talk about being a role model, children actually learn more from adults about what they do and how they behave than what you say. So you want to be how you want your students to be with each other. That means you show respect and warmth. You want to model empathy, patience, cooperation, sharing, validating, giving compliments, all of those things, because when you're like that as a role model, your students will pick it up and model it. It's very, very important to be a keen observer. Of course, you're assessing your students and responsible for their academic growth, but you're responsible for the growth of the whole child. At the individual level, you want to watch students carefully. Are there academic demands that are too stressful for them? How can you individualize their programming so that they can thrive? Are there events that precipitate negative moods, negative behavior? What are the antecedents of those events? What happens after? Do your students, when you watch them as individuals, are they forming friendships? Do they have social challenges? Do they tend to be alone? At the interaction level, you want to sort of have a mental map in your head. Who is friends with whom? Who's included? Who's left out? Who's influential, controlling, dominant, quiet, marginalized, excluded, rejected? At the group dynamic level, you want to ask yourself constantly, what is the prevailing climate in this room? What is the current weather today? Are there rigid hierarchies in your classroom based on academic prowess and competence? Is it a competitive atmosphere, or rather cohesive, collaborative, and flexible? The next thing you want to do is to be able to constantly reflect, first of all, on your own reactions to individual students. You're human, and there are going to be some students you're going to find very appealing, very charming, very fun to interact with. On the other hand, there'll be students who are more challenging, who for some reason it's harder to reach, or who are not responsive to all your efforts. You may feel impatient. You may feel exasperated. Be very aware of your own reactions so that you can monitor what you are modeling. If every time a student comes in late and you groan or look frustrated, that's going to be picked up. That's going to be noticed by the other students in the class. If there's a disruptive student, especially in the early grades, the children will model your frustration at that student's disruptiveness. You also want to reflect about how fair you are. Are you a just teacher? Are you seen by your students to be just? And are you seen by your students as someone who they can relate to? Are you be aware of where you are in terms of your cultural identity and other aspects of your identity. How does that impact how your students see you? And also be aware of your biases. Next, we hope that you learn to consistently respond in the moment. When you hear negative comments, when you hear homophobic or racist remarks, or anything that's disrespectful, call it out in the moment. Don't let things fester. Don't let kind of negative interactions go without being noticed and called out. Because when they are, then students learn that that's acceptable. On the other hand, you want to constantly praise and validate the kind of interpersonal behaviors that you want to promote. That means openness, inclusion, helpfulness, all of those things. If you see students do it, notice it, call it out. Too often we pay attention to the negative and to the disruptive and not to the positive and the inclusive behaviors that we see among students. The next idea is coaching or scaffolding, or in this case, a trellis in a garden. Provides additional structure for plants. Scaffolding enables children to function at a higher level than they otherwise would be. Some students may need help learning how to join a group. Other students may need help learning how to accept the ideas of others when they're working in a group project. So you want to, based on your careful observations, you want to think about what are the social skills that each student needs to work on. Break it down into smaller steps and be present. Be close to the group. When a group is working and you know that one person tends to dominate that group, sit with the group and provide coaching right in the moment. Oh, that was a good idea. Wait a second, let's listen carefully while Thomas talks about his idea. So use your presence to be able to be there so that you can actually enable your students to function at a higher level than they would be able to function if they were on their own. There's lots of skills that you can model and scaffold in your students to create that healthy social environment, that sunny climate. First of all, regulating emotion. It's hard for all of us. Some students are very quick to have hurt feelings, to feel rejected, and to start crying, which becomes a vulnerability factor for that student because other students can see that when they say something to that student, they easily react and cry. So other students have trouble regulating anger. So regulating emotion is something that your presence and your scaffolding can help. Regulating behavior, obviously, if a student is very anger prone and loses control, they're going to have trouble regulating their behavior. So you're going to help them set goals and watch them and reinforce when they are able to just sort of shrug and deal with it. That's a big accomplishment for many students. Empathy and perspective taking is something that it grows over a lifetime. Some students will come to your class naturally empathic. They just kind of get it. Whereas other students tend to be so focused on their own goals or their own needs that they tend to trample over others. So you want to watch that and help them kind of slow their interactions down and ask, well, what just happened? How do you think Thomas felt when you said that? What did you notice on his face? What did you notice from his body language? A sense of fair play and justice is essential. Young kids tend to be very quick to call out things that are unfair when it's not in their favor, but they tend to cheat at games, for example, and it takes a while for kids to learn that I have to be fair so other people will also be fair. And this is really, really crucial. Appreciation of differences and diversity. It's very, very critical that you model that everybody is welcome in your class. There are different learners, they have different needs, they're going to learn at different rates. And if you model that and you make everyone feel welcome and comfortable, then soon your students will be able to do that as well. Everybody has rights and everybody has responsibilities. So in terms of interpersonal interactions, every student needs to feel that they have the right to be respected and they have that responsibility to show respect to others. And this is a constant that should be pervasive in the atmosphere and the weather in your classroom. Certainly by using your own power positively, you model it. And there will be kids who tend to be dominant or leaders. You want them to use their abilities, their competencies to help others rather than to lord it over others. So this is something you need to be watching and feel aware of and be scaffolding that. And positive problem solving. Clearly, when students are working together, they're going to run into conflicts, they're going to have conflicting goals, conflicting ideas about how to do something. So helping them to learn in the moment when you're sitting with them how to listen, how to compromise, how to brainstorm together and come up with new ideas. And finally, moral re-engagement. Often students will become so swept up in their own drama, in their own thinking about their own needs and their own hurt feelings, that they will not really get it that some things are not okay. When they're outside and they see bullying on the playground and they watch it, they need to learn that's not okay. You don't just watch and think, oh well, this is just normal. You got to take action and do something about it. So that's a theme that you want to be regularly scaffolding in the students that you're working with. We talk about social architecture, which is teachers taking the responsibility to assign seating plans, to assign groups, teams, partners, etc. Very often students will say, well, we want to choose our own partners. You can't tell us who to be friends with. The idea is not to tell people who to be friends with, but to create a classroom where there's a lot of interaction and it's not rigid, it's not hierarchical, it's not that some kids are always partners or with others. You want to mix it up and reshuffle often. You can do that by choosing people who have the same, born in the same month. You can use random strategies to form groups. It's very important to do that, especially at the beginning of any new group when a group comes together. I still constantly hear stories from clients about how they have to choose a lab partner at every lab and nobody wants to be their partner, and how painful that is, or how embarrassing and humiliating it is to be the person who's chosen last for a team. So you need to be that person who eliminates those toxic experiences by assigning students yourself. Also, it's very important to have, for unstructured times, recess, playground, open-ended times in the classroom, to use structured activities so that children who have trouble finding others to be with and to interact with can sort of fall in. Clubs and mentoring experiences are also part of social architecture. If a student is constantly having trouble on the playground at recess, for example, you might find an older student to be that mentor, to be a recess buddy, and to hang out with that student. It's very important, though, that you respect the autonomy of your class. If you have a class and a group of students who are very good at selecting partners and who mix it up on their own and who don't leave anybody out, then leave them to it. But that's something you want to be monitoring and observing all the time so that no one is embarrassed, no one feels humiliated, and no one feels rejected. It's important, too, when you're assigning groups, to think about the vulnerable students, to make sure that they're in a group that will be gentle and patient and welcoming. And it's also important to separate students who do not work well together. Either they inspire each other to rambunctious, if not disruptive behavior, or they just exclude others. So your awareness is so essential in creating groupings that are going to be productive for everyone. The last thing is to be a champion, to champion each and every student so that everyone in your class feels that they can shine in the eyes of their peers. Very often when you walk into a school, the first thing you notice in a cabinet is awards and trophies, and they go to the students who are academically excellent, who are great at sports. But what about other avenues for recognition? It's important to recognize those who are kind, who are good listeners, who are exuberant. Celebrate somebody's exuberance and energy. Celebrate the students who march the beat of their own drum. Celebrate the students who think out of the box, because they too need to have those moments to shine, and that will help them interact positively and be accepted in their peer groups. So in concluding, I remind you that as a teacher, you'll have many seedlings that you'll work with over your careers, and you will nurture them. You will provide the sun, the water, and the soil. Your relationship with them will create, I'm sure, very beautiful gardens in which diverse plants are thriving and everybody feels happy and welcome and safe. And a good garden is resilient. There's certainly going to be rain. There sometimes will be storms in your classroom. But what you want is a garden that has the strength based on the warmth and the cohesiveness of the relationships to withstand those storms. So on that note, I'll leave you. Thank you very, very much.